Every day, millions of people go online to search for local businesses. Does your small business show up? When you create a website on WordPress.com, you make it easier for your customers to find you, to connect with you, to hear how you can help them. Your business needs an online home. It needs a WordPress.com website. You don't need experience setting up websites. WordPress guides you through the process from start to finish. They take care of the technical stuff, so it's easy to get your site up and running. Their customer support team is made up of WordPress experts eager to help you get the most from your site. They're available to help 24 hours a day, Monday through Friday, and weekends. Plans start at just $4 a month, and all WordPress plans include a custom domain name for the life of the plan. Come see why 28% of all websites run on WordPress. Get started today with 15% off any new plan purchase. Go to WordPress.com/Golic to create your website and find the plan that's right for you. That's WordPress.com/Golic for 15% off your brand new website. WordPress.com/Golic.
Great news. There's a quick way you can save money. Switch to Geico. Geico could help you get great coverage at a great price. And it only takes 15 minutes to see if you could save 15% or more on car insurance. Go to geico.com today and see how much you could save.
Green Day with us on a Monday morning, the Monday morning of Super Bowl week. Holiday. We're getting towards that big holiday. Super Bowl 52 coming up in 6 days. Glad you're with us on Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio und ESPN2. Presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests will join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. We'll have Pat Shurmur, the head coach of the Giants, coming up in just a bit.
I love so the Eagles got in town yesterday. I love it. They spent their first day walking around the Mall of America. Get it out of your system, gang. Yeah. It's a big mall. Go walk around, do your thing. And
Can you do it all in one day?
It's been a long time since I've been there. It depends. I mean, who's going to a mall to go in every store?
No.
I mean, usually going there to see a few things.
Celebrate the entire collection.
Oh, there you go. But it's big. There ain't no doubt about that.
Yeah.
It is something to see, and we'll get our fill of it, that's for sure.
We will be there because Golic and Wingo on the road, presented by Progressive Insurance. We'll be live from Minneapolis beginning Wednesday for coverage of the big game. Drivers who switch to Progressive can save an average of $620.
The bus will be down there as well, riding around.
There we go.
Absolutely. Our bus, the first time we use it for broadcast will be the draft, I believe, out in Dallas.
How many snowballs do you think that bus will be pelted with?
It's okay. I hope they throw it.
Whose face? Yours or mine going to get more? I think my face will probably get pelted with more snowballs.
That's a great question.
Put out on Twitter.
Put out the poll.
Which face is going to get pelted with more snowballs? With more snowballs.
Wow, that's a good question.
My face or yours? I like my chances on that one.
I think I do too.
All right, we got lots to get to, and we'll get to all of them. But we are delighted now to be joined by Giants head coach Pat Shurmur, who joins us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. Coach, congratulations. Welcome into Golic and Wingo. What was your initial reaction when you realized, hey, you're going to be a head coach again, and it's going to be with one of the storied franchises in all of the NFL?
Well, as you can imagine, it was a great thrill. I really enjoyed, getting to know the guys through the interview process, and we quickly kind of came to the conclusion that this would be a good fit, and thrilled. We're fast at finishing up the staff and evaluating our players, and we're off and running.
Now, I know you're the interim head coach of the Eagles in 2015, but back when you were the head coach with the Cleveland Browns back in 2011, so we always talk about everything's a learning experience, Pat. So what did you learn most from there that you bring to this next full-time head coaching job?
Well, the first thing is there's a list of things I'll never do again. And I think everything Cleveland, I wish I knew then what I know now. I've said that in the past because you do learn, and I've learned since I left there. But I've got a list of things I'll never do again, and I also have a list of things that are super important to get done in the first month. And I think that, I alluded to it already, making sure I get the right staff in place and, getting the proper start to what's going to be a lot of work. Took over a 3-13 team. We got to make some changes, and we got to do a lot of work here.
I'm just curious, if you can mention one, what would be like one thing that you won't do this time around?
Well, the first year, because I couldn't quite get the guy that I wanted, I didn't hire an offensive coordinator because I called the plays. Well, that's not the right thing to do. You need the full structure of coaches, and I think that's just one example. But I've got another list of things that are somewhat private, but I just you do things the first time and then give it an opportunity to do them the second time. You certainly, you kind of look and assess and reevaluate how things went, and you're able to do them better.
Giants head coach Pat Shurmur with us on Golick and Wingo this morning. And speaking of doing things better, you only lasted 2 seasons in Cleveland, but you won 9 games. I think if Cleveland had to do it all over again, they would have kept you. Because right now, you'd have a 30-foot statue of Pat Shurmur in Cleveland right now if you won 9 games over 2 years. But that's in the past. We're moving forward, Pat, with you with the Giants. And obviously, there's a lot of questions about what the Giants will do with that second overall pick. Mm-hmm. Eli is obviously towards the end of his career. There's a lot of quarterbacks in this draft, Pat. What is the team thinking right now in terms of maybe looking at that successor for Eli?
Well, certainly we're way too early in the process to kind of talk about what's going to happen there. The only thing I will say is, I was made aware of this, the history here. The last time the Giants had a number 2 pick, picked Lawrence Taylor.
Mm-hmm. So no pressure.
No, and then the next time they had a number 3 pick, they picked Carl Banks, and those are 2 franchise-changing players. And so, we're going to do what's best for the team, obviously. I don't want to sound all cliche-like, but, we're not quite there yet. We feel really good about Eli. I don't know much about Davis Webb other than I liked him coming out, So with regard to the quarterback position, we're going to work with the guys that are here and then certainly evaluate if there's a guy worthy of that at the 2 pick.
Well, we know a guy that they're going to throw the ball to, and that would be Odell Beckham Jr. coming back from the injury, and we know the talent that he has. And you said you're going to meet with him, and you want to discuss with him what it means to be a Giant. So what does it mean to be a Giant? What will that conversation entail? Well,
you mentioned it in the opener, but there's such pride and there's such history here. I think it's very, very important that we do what's right. I think the word culture is thrown around a lot. I think it really just comes down to doing what's right and competing, giving effort, and then playing the game with respect. And I think, those are all things. I'm not saying this in regard to obviously Odell. I've already spoken to him. Obviously we can just talk about, hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you stuff. But, I think talking to him, he sounds inspired to get ready to have a really good year. So I'm looking forward to that.
Pat Shurmur with us, the new head coach of the Giants, taking over a team that was 3-13. And obviously Odell wasn't there for a lot of last year, Pat, but there were issues in that Giants locker room. It seemed like every one of the secondary was suspended or disciplined at one point. And you talk about that culture change. How do you install the expectations right away that you want to see the players meet from day one?
Well, we've got to get the players in the building, and certainly as we go through the off season here, we just continually talk about what's right and how we're going to do business, and it's not. We really just got to set the standards and the guidelines. It's more than just saying follow the rules, but it needs to be relationship driven. We've got to talk about it. They got to understand not only what we think is right, but then help them understand why it's important so they believe in it as well.
Are you, Coach, do you kind of let the locker room police itself and run itself? What kind of are your attributes as a head coach, or how involved are you in that of players policing themselves?
Well, I think we bring in the right players, and then some of that handles itself. In terms of, I like to be involved with what's going on. I like to know what's going on. I like to have conversations with players, frequently, throughout the day, and then, the whole leadership thing that's another thing. I think that sometimes it's got a definition that's not quite the one I like. I think leadership's really just having the courage to do what's right. And I think that's the kind of locker room that we have. From what I've heard, we've got a lot of those guys down there. And again, I'm still in the beginning stages of sort of figuring out what went from 11-5 to 3-13. But certainly there's some things that we got to work through.
Pat Shurmur with us, the new head coach of the Giants, coming over from Minnesota, where he was the offensive coordinator with the Vikings. And, one of the great stories of the year, Pat, was the turnaround in Case Keenum. I mean, how he flipped the script. Obviously, you worked very closely with him. What was it about Case that surprised you the most in the way he was able to sort of rewrite what people think of him?
Yeah, I think everything about Case behind the scenes, certainly we knew the player and we could watch the tape, and we brought him in initially with the idea he was going to back us up. But he, when given a chance to start, and it really did show through all the training, man, he was dialed in. He was ready to play. He could finish the call before I finished it, and and he's got this thing about his personality where he is a winner and he's a gritty guy, and somewhere in each game to either extend a drive or get us a score, he would do something a little bit heroic. And so I was really proud of his efforts. It was really a fun year. He initially said to me, he said, "Listen, I'm driving a really fast car and I'm going to drive it as long as I can." And so his mindset on that was initially to just do what he could to help us win games, and then he was able to ride it all the way through for us.
Well, and speaking of something heroic, let's just relive that for a moment. We had Kyle Rudolph on the day after that when you guys beat the New Orleans Saints, and Rudy said that the play is basically called heaven, and boy, it was heaven sent. Can you take us through that play and just when you saw Diggs catch that thing and then he had nobody in front of him, just kind of your feelings that you saw the whole thing unfold?
Well, in that drive there, we hit a chunk on the first play, and then we were working our way down. So we just needed, we needed 15 yards or so to get into a position to kick a long field goal. So that was the idea. We had 10 seconds left. That play's designed to use the sideline, so we flood the sideline, and it went in, called heaven with a prayer, obviously. And then, what ends up happening is Diggsy, the ideal scenario and what we'd expected is he catches it and gets out of bounds or kick the field goal. But, that was just the instincts of a player. He catches it, he's behind the defense, and he took off. And so I was obviously behind the play, couldn't see it all happening, but you could, the crowd, it was like crickets in the crowd to begin with, and then all of a sudden you could hear them start to roar. So, it was quite an experience. It was obviously a play that was, Case made a great throw, Diggs made a great catch, there was protection, there was a guy that almost tipped the ball, so there was a lot going on there, and it was, it's one of those things that was fun to be a part of.
Rudy said he ran the short route of the three routes over there, and he said the first thing when Diggs caught it was get out of bounds, and he was scared that he didn't get out of bounds, it was going to get caught, and you weren't going to have time. Did you think the same thing where you're like, just get out of bounds?
Yeah, I might have said that over the headset.
Well, look, that might have been my favorite moment of the entire year. The reaction.
Oh my gosh.
Josina Anderson got Everson Griffin on the field, and that was the greatest interview. And he really said nothing. I mean, he was like, I was sad, now I'm happy. I mean, the reaction from everybody, that was one of the most, except if you're in New Orleans, obviously, that was one of the most unbelievable, joyous things I've ever seen in a lot of years of covering this sport.
And when you watch it, you got to listen to Paul Allen.
Oh yeah,
he was. I mean, he's obviously one of the best in the business, and that was quite a deal. You could feel the emotion in his voice. But you guys are you in Minneapolis yet?
We're getting there tomorrow.
We're getting there tomorrow.
You're gonna love it. I'm telling you. I didn't know anything about Minneapolis, and then certainly the last couple of years, it's a great city. I would imagine it's going to be. They're going to host a terrific Super Bowl, and I think you're going to enjoy it. Bring a coat, but other than that, it's going to be.
We're going to take full advantage of the gerbil tunnels that connect the buildings. Right. That's the most important thing we're going to do. Listen, Pat, congratulations. Sometimes you never get that second opportunity, so we're thrilled that you got that opportunity, and we'll see what happens with you and the Giants this coming season.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, guys. Have a great week.
You too, Pat. Thanks so much.
Bye now.
Pat Shurmur, new head coach of the football Giants, coming off that obviously great run with the Minnesota Vikings, where they came up just short of being the first team ever to have home field advantage in a Super Bowl.
Yeah, what a play! What a obviously they went on to lose after that, but what one of the lasting moments you had to have that play work out. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, if that's one of your last calling cards as an offensive coordinator, nicely done on your part.
Exactly.
So we talked with him a little bit because Eli is 37, I believe, and they have the second overall pick. It's a quarterback-rich draft. What's he going to do? Obviously, they haven't made that decision yet, but the Senior Bowl was over the weekend, and a lot of eyes were on a lot of players, including Baker Mayfield, who doesn't have all the measurables, obviously, like a Josh Allen does or a Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen, but a lot of people, including our Mel Kiper Jr., were impressed with what they saw out of the Heisman Trophy winner.
Well, you forget the game because there wasn't much there in the first quarter, and obviously he had other things on his mind more important than football. But you look at Baker during the week. To come to Mobile was impressive. Same thing for Josh Allen. Just to be there impressed me. And yet to go through the week, and you could see the intensity. You could see the camaraderie between Allen and Mayfield. Yeah, they competed, but there was a mutual admiration society all week, which I love to see. And Baker made all the throws, the mobility. He's going to get compared, Matt, to Drew Brees and Russell Wilson. That's a really good thing. That's why I think by the time we get to late April 26th, he's going to be in the mix to be a top 5, top 10 pick overall.
Wow.
Top 5,
top 10 pick. You saw him moving around. I watched the game and the practices as well. There was thought he wasn't going to play in the game. He had a couple of series in the game, moving around through some from the pocket. Had a good chance on one over the middle, threw a little late and a little behind, but he's as advertised. Yep. I mean, what you see out of him, you get. He doesn't have the strongest arm in the world, but he can make the throws. He can certainly get himself in position to make the throws, and that is a comparison. When you're that size, you need to be accurate like a Drew Brees accuracy. I'm not saying as accurate, and you need to have the mobility. People are saying like Russell Wilson because of the size of them both to be able to move out of the pocket and make things happen. He's going to take some hits. There's no doubt about that. But he is a leader. When Josh Allen was in the game and ran one toward the sideline, Baker was over there getting him a pat on the butt, getting back out on the field. He is, as I said, he's as advertised. So it's going to be up to the team to say, is this the guy we want to draft and take that chance on?
And look, the upside of those comparisons is great. Russell Wilson and Drew Brees because of the stature.
Yes.
But let's be clear. If he's going to be one of those guys, he has to be either as accurate as Brees or he has to be as fast and elusive as Wilson.
Yeah,
and those are the things we don't know yet.
He can get out of the pocket and move around. I don't know how elusive he'll be to get away. That I don't know yet, and that's going to be hard to tell because you won't see another game, obviously. You just have the film to watch, but he has a knack. You know, that it factor, he has that it factor about him, both on the field to get a play done and certainly from the leadership as well. A guy that looks the part. Josh Allen's hitting at 6'5", about 237 pounds. Mel Kiper had some thoughts on him as well.
He struggled early on because he said, hey, timing, throwing everybody in there new that first day of practice, but the dramatic improvement to Wednesday, Thursday was spectacular to see the way he really came on strong. Dealt with pressure. Keep in mind, pressure and scrutiny and criticism was there after those struggles, yet he finished the week strong. How about the game, Matt? He didn't struggle. He showed great mobility in the second quarter, but didn't really move the offense. Decides to come out to start the third quarter, and he's lights out. Can you imagine if he'd have struggled there or not come out in the third quarter? There would have been a lot of critics. Well, he silenced the critics, silenced the doubters, and showcased that 100-mile-an-hour fastball and touch and accuracy, which people had questioned. So for me, at under almost 6'5", 237 pounds, great character, great competitiveness. He's in the mix to be the number 1 pick overall.
And by the way, if you're wondering, who the hell is Matt that Mel keeps referencing?
Yeah.
That was Matt Berry, Sports Center
right.
anchor. That's what that sound was coming from. So if that was crossing your mind, just wanted to clear your conscience.
I'm going to ease it a bit. If you want to sit there and say silence the critics for this game, because in the first half, he didn't really move the offense.
Right. Second
half, he played well. I even tweeted, he dropped a couple in the bucket. The one was a wheel route by I believe a back that was a touchdown, and he dropped a couple just nice touch over the top. You knew he had a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. That wasn't in question. But if anybody's going to say, I really want to quantify what Mel said. If he silenced the critics overall, I couldn't disagree more.
Yeah,
there is no chance on God's green earth one game is going to tell me I'm going to silence the critics of what I saw of some inaccuracy. Even though I know some were drops, I understand that. But inaccuracy is one of the major red flags coming into the NFL. And there's no way one game of which he did do well. He had some accurate throws. And I remember somebody tweeted out, look at the arm on this guy, and he threw a go route 10 yards over the guy's head. I'm like,
so
what the hell good is that?
So
I mean, just threw it 10 yards over the guy's head. I mean, so we got, to me, I'm still looking at all the quarterbacks. I'll say again, I think Josh Rosen throws the best out of all the quarterbacks. Josh Allen, this did nothing to sit there and say, oh, you know what? Everything's solved for me. No problems anymore because of a really good half in the Senior Bowl. No chance. That doesn't mean he's not. I wouldn't take him as one of the top picks, but based off what I've seen, I'm still a little bit skeptical about what can go on at the next level with that accuracy.
There is no chance that he silenced all the critics. Now, in Mel's mind, he may have silenced some doubts that Mel had, and that's fine because I think Mel has him going number one overall, doesn't he? So yes, that's fair. But there are 32 teams that will go through this process with him, and they will all have the questions, especially when your career completion percentage, when 2 years as a starter, is 56%.
Man, does he look good.
Yeah,
I mean, he's standing in the pocket and firing that ball, but that's where you got to be careful of getting lost because there have been a lot of quarterbacks who've come in the league who look really good and then don't make it in the league. I'm not saying that about Josh Allen, but you got to be careful about what you get mesmerized about.
There will be an ongoing evaluation process with him that may lead literally right up until the day before the draft. On that Pennzoil Performance Line now is ESPN's college football analyst Jay Billis. Joins us and brought to you by Wendy's, the proud sponsor of the 2018 John R. Wooden Player of the Year Award. I say basketball. Yeah, there you go. Did I say football? That makes no sense.
I can do football.
I know.
Football's a lot easier.
Jay,
all I have to do is say you got to run the ball, you got to throw the ball,
you
got to control the line of scrimmage.
Stop it. Don't be that guy. Here I was. See, I was going to give you praise for the College Game Day Open yesterday.
Oh, it was fantastic.
West Virginia.
Oh, it was
all
fantastic.
that kind of stuff. And then you take the shot right out of the gate, Jay. You just take that shot right out of the gate.
It's not a shot. It's just how easy our jobs are. You can throw analysts at the end of any sport, and we could all do it.
Who is so you guys sang Almost Heaven, West Virginia. Who's the worst singer out of the four of you?
I think it was probably a tie for last there. None of us could carry a tune, but together we could blame it on each other. So, but it was really fun, and it was the best part about it, Mike, was how well received it was. I mean, you've been to Morgantown. The people are awesome.
Yeah,
they couldn't be nicer, and we had a blast there as we always do. So it was. I'm just glad it was well received and well received beyond Morgantown.
It was very cool.
Yeah,
Anybody didn't see it, you can Google that and find it. They're open to College Game Day. It was really, really cool.
It was really good. The flannel shirts, everything was working.
Very, very neat.
So that was one interesting thing that happened Saturday in college basketball. The other one, Jay, was how Alabama somehow slowed down the Trae Young Express. What did they do to a kid that, wow, had suddenly been doing everything right, and then they ran into a buzzsaw?
Well, they were on Oklahoma was on the road, and it's always hard to win on the road. But, Trae Young has been seeing a lot of different looks defensively, and Colin Sexton is not quite his equal as far as how good he is, but he's really good. Those are the two best freshman guards in the country. And, Sexton is long and athletic, and Alabama's got a number. They're healthy now. They've got a number of younger players that are long and athletic, and they're good. And Avery Johnson's done a really nice job with them, and they get out and guard. So defensively, look, Oklahoma's going to win when they defend at a high level, and they can really score. But when you go on the road, you have to do more than just score. You're not going to outscore people, and I say outscore like you'd say out rebound. You're going to have to guard people at a higher level, and that's what Oklahoma's working on, I think.
You talked about the two best guards in the country. Let's go to possibly the best player in the country. Notre Dame takes on Duke. Marvin Bagley III. 6 games this year with 30 points and 10 rebounds, most in D1, including the game Saturday against Virginia. What do you see about him as far as one-and-dones you've seen over the last 5, 10, 15 years of where this guy rates and compares to that?
He is so productive, Mike, it's hard to imagine. You mentioned he had 6 30-point games to this point in the season. In Duke's history, freshmen have scored 30 in a game 7 times combined, and he's done it 6 times already this year.
Wow.
He's got incredible bounce, and his athleticism is really something to behold. His second and third jumps, I've never seen anybody that can do that, and he never takes a play off. He's smooth, so it doesn't look like he's working his tail off, but he is. I mean, he works all the time and never stops. His motor's unbelievable. But his productivity level, rebounding, I mean, he's leading the ACC in scoring and rebounding. Over 11 rebounds a game or 12 rebounds a game. He's got 22 points per game. And he's not knocking free throws down at a high rate yet. He's got a good enough stroke where I think that's going to really improve. But he could even be more productive than he is. And it's not like he gets the ball every time down. He goes and gets the ball, which I think is even more impressive.
Jay Billis with us this morning, our college basketball analyst, talking about some things that went on over the weekend on the court. And, Jay, then there's the big storm cloud that's looming over Michigan State and what happens there in the wake of the Outside the Lines report coming off the conviction of Larry Nassar. But it was pretty clear from the Outside the Lines report that there are other issues that Michigan State has to deal with, most notably some issues with the football program with Mark D'Antonio and also Tom Izzo, including Travis Walton, the former player of his, who was also a coach of his. What's your feeling on how or if, I know you've mentioned this before, that you're not sure the NCAA should be involved in investigating this. How do you think the investigation should go on as to what happened and who knew what, and did they follow the procedures?
Well, there are multiple investigations that are going to go on now. So you've got the Attorney General in the state of Michigan and a special prosecutor that Michigan State invited in the Attorney General in the state of Michigan. Now a special prosecutor has been appointed. The NCAA sent a letter of inquiry, which they have done, and they did in the Penn State case. But then they took it outside of the process. So, this letter of inquiry for the NCAA said that it would go through, if there are any violations, it would go through the Committee on Infractions process, which is vastly different from what happened with Penn State. With Penn State, they took it completely outside and just basically did whatever they wanted. The NCAA did. So there's a lot to be determined here as far as investigations go. And really, Trey, I think the key in this is to determine exactly what the facts were, not the facts of the underlying allegations of was there sexual assault. That I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the facts of what was the process that Michigan State had in place for handling allegations of sexual misconduct by athletes, and were those processes and protocols followed by the coaches, by the athletic department, by all those involved. Those are factual matters that have to be unraveled and have to be determined. Because as you guys know, with Title IX investigations, the NCAA doesn't have policies and procedures and rules for how schools handle sexual misconduct allegations. That's essentially up to the schools. And so, each school may have a different one. I don't know exactly what Michigan State's policies and procedures were with regard to sexual misconduct by athletes. But it's really interesting. I don't know if you've seen it on Twitter the last couple of days. I went back and I looked at Mark Emmert's testimony before the Senate Commerce Committee in 2014, and Claire McCaskill, a senator from Missouri, asked him specifically about this and said that she had a study that 20% of all colleges and universities, NCAA schools, handled their sexual misconduct allegations against athletes through the athletic department. And Mark Emmert didn't know that. And he pledged to do something about it going forward. And I don't know, frankly, that other than putting out some guidelines, that anything has been done in that regard. And so it's a problem that we have that is industry-wide in college sports on college campuses, and it is societal in nature, but it has certainly visited Michigan State in a big way. So
where this goes now, Jay, again, the epicenter of it, like in Penn State with Jerry Sandusky in jail and Larry Nassar, we'll never see him again, and I won't say any more on what I think should go on there. But now we're dealing with what we're dealing with, and we know that in the social media world, how the flames get fanned all the time. In your thought process here, do you think there are going to be, from whether it's Emmert, the head of the NCAA, all the way on down to these big time coaches we're talking about, that there's going to be more people losing their jobs in the wake of this thing?
I don't know, Mike. I'm not sure that will happen or should happen. I'll leave that to time to figure out. I do think a lot of important questions need to be answered. A lot of it is going to go through is going to come from the investigation process. Like, I just don't think, as a practical matter, these profound and important questions are going to be answered at a post-game press conference. Right. As a practical matter, that can't happen. I do think it's an interesting question you brought up about the head of the NCAA. That, Mark Emmert was provided with a letter from a woman named Catherine Redmond and then met with her individually in 2010. And according to Ms. Redmond and according to Mark Emmert's email to the NCAA Board of Governors, he was made aware of 37 cases of sexual misconduct at Michigan State. The issue is, why didn't the NCAA do anything at the time, send a letter of inquiry at the time? If the NCAA had gotten involved, and I don't know whether it's appropriate that they would, but if they had sent their letter of inquiry then, and in my judgment, if they have the authority to do it now, they had the authority to do it then. Mm-hmm. And if they went in there and made inquiries and looked into it, could they possibly have determined what was going on with gymnastics? And look, I understand that's a big question. I'm not laying that at the feet of anyone when I ask that. I'm just saying it's a question that I think should be answered by the head of the governing body, given that he was informed at the time. Because if we're asking all these questions about coaches and athletic directors, I think the leader of the NCAA, the governing body, should answer that question.
Well, Jay Billis with us, our college basketball analyst. Jay, with that in mind, there's a lot of complex issues at Michigan State, but does it really come down to a couple of simple questions that are answered? Who knew what? Did they follow the procedures that were in place? And were the procedures the problem, or were the people that not following those procedures the problem?
I think that's exactly right and very well stated. I mean, to me, there are some things about this that are very, very easy, and then there are some things about it that are a little bit more complicated. And with the way federal law is and Title IX investigations, how they have to be handled, and with regard to a person who knows of an allegation when it's reported, taking it out of Michigan State and just asking the question generally, what is the coach to do after a matter has been reported to the authorities, whether campus police or the local police? If a coach became involved in it and stayed involved in it, we'd criticize them for trying to use undue influence. If they're outside of it and then the authorities make the determination, what are we reasonably asking the coach to do? Those are key questions that I think have to be determined in addition to the strict factual matters of exactly what happened at Michigan State in each of these cases as far as the protocols and procedures and whether they were followed.
Well, listen, this is the beginning of a process, clearly nowhere near the end of it. Jay, we appreciate you being with us this morning. And again, rocking not only the flannel shirt, but the beanie. That was a solid
good stuff.
Pull.
Really good
Everyone
stuff.
else just went in with the shirt for the Open. You went with the beanie too, and it really worked.
Hey, does my pay go up being a football analyst now?
Yes.
No.
Congratulations.
No, not one bit.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that off the air.
No.
Good job.
Awesome, guys. Thanks for having me.
No,
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it.
No, we never commented on that. Barry Church got fined for that hit on Gronkowski, and people calling it cheap. There's no way on God's green earth, in my mind, that was a cheap shot at all.
Completely agree.
At all. He got fined for it. You get fined for everything nowadays.
Richard Sherman.
It seems. It's crazy to think that was a cheap shot.
Richard Sherman watched that and put something out very thoughtful on Twitter because, first of all, what Dan Le Batard was saying was true. It was Gronk's head that landed on Barry Church.
Yeah.
It wasn't Barry Church's head that went into Gronk. I mean, this was a garanimal coming down out of the sky, and his head sort of happened to land on Barry Church. But Richard Sherman put it out there on Twitter. Basically, what is he supposed to do? If he goes low, he's going to be criticized for taking out his knees.
Everybody sits there and say, well, you have, the midsection, from the stomach and the midsection, because everybody's seeing it at slow motion.
Correct.
At that split second, you're right. You go low and blow a knee out, and then you're a dirty player because you blew a knee out.
Correct.
You try and go above that, and you throw a shoulder, and Church had his shoulder going, but then the receivers, we've talked about this a ton of times.
Over.
Their levels change. I think to call that a cheap shot to me is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I don't think in any way, shape, or form he was trying to. He was just trying to make a play.
Gronk did practice, not cleared yet from concussion protocol, and I always love that. If there was a game Sunday, he wouldn't have played. Well, guess what? There wasn't
a game Sunday.
There wasn't a game Sunday, and I have a feeling he'll be cleared.
That's like if the season ended today.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? It doesn't.
It's not.
It ends on Sunday. But it's good to see Gronk out there because the last part of the concussion protocol, if you're a Patriots fan, the last part of the protocol concussion is exertion and showing no symptoms after exertion.
Right.
So if he's out there practicing, it does seem like he's on the back end of the concussion protocol. Okay. Tom Brady is there one more time.
Yes, he is.
In the Super Bowl. And outside of Brady, Gronk may be the most beloved guy
right.
In Boston. But Brady is Brady.
Yes, he is.
And just so people understand how much he's revered in New England, okay? I will not give names here, but there's a friend that I know whose wife went to dinner with another person that she knew, and the two husbands went along. They didn't know each other.
They didn't.
The
So
wives were friends.
Two couples went out. The wives were
For
friends.
dinner, yeah.
The husbands didn't know one another.
Yeah, and this was a couple years ago in the middle of the Deflategate deflation sensation
right,
thing.
all that stuff.
So the wives know each other. The husbands are sort of tagging along.
Okay.
And they're out to dinner. And so they are talking sports, and they found out they both, Patriots fans, blah, blah, blah. And one guy says, look, I love Tom, but, the texts say, they call him the deflator. It seems like there may have been something there. And the other guy, the two guys didn't know each other. He looks at the other guy and says, whoa, whoa, whoa. Whoa, whoa, whoa. You're telling me I'm about to break bread with someone who thinks TB12 is a cheetah? I'm out of here. And he gets up and walks out of the restaurant. Okay? What makes the story great is
so
first
good.
of all, they're not having dinner. They're breaking bread.
Breaking bread.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
And he doesn't go Tom Brady. He goes TB12.
Yeah.
So it was, you're telling me I'm about to break bread with someone who thinks TB12 is a cheetah? I'm out of here.
That is, and he left. He actually left.
That was it.
And the other guy was probably happy as hell he left, that he didn't have to deal with that for another 2 hours.
End of dinner. I'm going to go out on a limb and assume those two couples probably not going out to dinner again.
Wow. I wonder what the wise reaction had to be at that
That's
one.
part I did not get that part of the story.
Yeah.
But that
whoa, whoa, whoa.
So just so you know, he is on a pedestal.
Breaking bread and TB12.
And deservedly so. I mean, he's going to his 8th Super Bowl, has a chance to win one for the other thumb. My goodness. But he's up there at an age, 40, where things just you shouldn't be able to do these things. But it's sort of what we're talking about now and what happened over the weekend. He's out there doing something that is ridiculous. At his age, and there's another guy out there in another sport that's doing things that are ridiculous, and that's Roger Federer. And the comparisons out there, because one is a team sport, one's individual. I'm curious, what do you think is more impressive? We can put that on the Twitter poll as well.
We should get into that a little bit, because again, Tom Brady is the first quarterback to start a Super Bowl at 40 years old. The first non-kicker or punter to play in the Super Bowl at 40. And not only playing and starting, but being the MVP level guy.
He's MVP level.
Yeah.
I mean, once again, came back from 10 points down in the fourth quarter. So we'll get into that, see what you guys think about what's more impressive there, what Fed is doing, or what Brady's doing. And plus, we'll get someone to talk about just what we saw over the weekend in Australia and what it actually means. Stay with us.
Hey there, I'm a glue stick, so I have one job. I glue kid stuff. So sorry for being jealous of Geico, who does a ton more, like give you 24/7 access to thousands of licensed agents. And Geico has been around for over 75 years and has a 97% customer satisfaction rating. While I've just got mediocre adhesive skills, Geico also has an award-winning mobile app. Uh-oh, arts and crafts time. No eating the glue stick. Miss Lydia!
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.